5, 6, 7, 8.
Hey EXers, welcome to the EX Podcast episode number 32. This is your host, Stefan Vincent. I've started this podcast because I believe that companies have to think of themselves as employment brands if they hope to attract and retain talents. The podcast brings a different lens to the employee experience, a brand and customer experience perspective rather than a traditional HR perspective. Our guests, all thought leaders and disruptors in the EX space in their own way, come to this show to debate, discuss, and share best practices on the key components that foster employee engagement and strengthen company culture, and also to spark the conversation on how to create positive employee experiences. One size doesn't fit all. What Airbnb or Google do around the employee experience may not be applicable in a smaller company. This is what this show is all about. Sharing stories of companies of all sizes, not only to show that EX doesn't require a large budget or a large team, but also that there isn't one recipe. Each company can find its own way through the EX journey. Today's guest is Hal Halladay, Chief People Officer at Infusionsoft, a SaaS company based in Chandler, Arizona. Today with Hal, we will talk about how employees are Infusionsoft's first brand ambassadors, why the voice of the employee, or VoE, matters, why the company has successfully scaled up its culture in the past few years, what is the company's unique onboarding process, the place of technology in the employee and candidate experience, and how the people function is no longer about HR, but about mixing different talents. This week's EX podcast is sponsored by Structural. Structural unleashes the potential of people and teams by giving organizations real-time mobile access to employee data. Find, engage, and retain talents with a Structural employee success platform. EX podcast listeners can visit structural.com/EX podcast to get access to the latest employee experience resources, including the Employee Success Playbook, featuring 10 research-backed methods to improve business outcomes. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Hal. If you get a chance, please make sure to review the podcast on iTunes. You can open the iTunes app and type in Stefan Vincent or EX Podcast, and you will find us there. And last thing, if you want to send me feedback, suggestions for future topics or guests, you can reach me at svincent@exsummit.com or on Twitter at EX_summit. Thanks for your support and loyalty. Let's get to it. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the EX Podcast. Today I'm talking with Hal Halladay from Chandler, Arizona. Hal is the Chief People Officer at Infusionsoft. Hal, thank you for joining us today.
That's my pleasure. It's great to be with you.
For those who don't know you, tell us a bit more about your background, your current role at Infusionsoft, and what the company does.
Great. Well, Infusionsoft is a software as a service company that serves small businesses, and our software helps small businesses grow through automating their sales and marketing process. And our focus is on really small businesses. We mean it when we say small. It's companies with 2 to 5 employees up to maybe 25 or 50 employees. But it's really the mom and pop small businesses that otherwise have a difficult time. Most of them aren't marketing experts, so we help them get that job done with some automation and software. I'm the Chief People Officer. I don't really have a long history and background in HR. I was an investment banker for 7 years, and then I've worked in software as an executive after that. I've been a CFO as well as a CEO of some smaller software companies, but I really believed in the purpose and mission of this company to help small businesses succeed, and to do that by helping enable people to be their best and creating the conditions and environment where people could thrive and be successful, and therefore the company could be successful. So I've always cared a lot about culture, a lot about building companies that are based on trust and purpose. So that was a good fit for me here. And the CEO wanted somebody that wouldn't come at that with a traditional HR background, but would come at it from a very people-centric background. And so that's how I came to become the Chief People Officer here.
How many employees do you have right now at Infusionsoft?
Yeah, we have about 530 employees, and we have approximately a little over 100 million in revenue.
I really like these statements about the culture at Infusionsoft. For our listeners, let me read it out loud and then we can comment on this. But you say that culture is your strategy, more than just a corporate buzzword. Culture is at the heart of everything you do, how you live, how you work, and how you serve the small business community. It isn't about perks, and it doesn't exist solely to make employees happy. Could you expand a bit on this and what it means for Infusionsoft?
Yes. We had a chance to go talk to Jim Collins, who's the author of, a handful of great books like Good to Great and How the Mighty Fall and things like that. And he asked us if culture was our strategy or if our strategy was culture. And our executive team, unanimously said that culture is our strategy. It is how we get the job done, and that includes hiring the right people, having the environment where they can be successful, grow, develop, where there's trust and autonomy for them to do the best work that they can. And that also determines how we, let people go and who don't fit and aren't contributing. Our culture is a culture of performance and accountability, and that's important to what we do, which is why it isn't just perks and to try and make people have fun and have a lot of cool things. It really is to drive performance and to drive urgency in a high-growth company, which is what most of us are in. So culture is super important to everybody, I think. But for us, that's what it means. We want to lead through leadership rather than through HR. We want our leaders to be accountable to the people that they lead by coaching them and multiplying them to do greater work. And that's part of our culture as well. So, and as we think about partners, we're very explicit about who we are as a company, what we want to stand for, and the social contract we have with one another to how we treat each other. And so our partners are aware of that. I think we attract partners who are connected to our culture, our values, our 7 core values. They guide the decisions we make in terms of hiring. They guide the decisions we make in terms of onboarding and working in the ecosystem with partners, and really how we do business with each other at our company, as well as how we do business with the world at large.
And what is interesting as well is because you're a SaaS company, obviously the user experience, meaning smaller business owners trying to do marketing and sales on their own without sophisticated softwares to be able to do that. The UX, the user experience, is at the heart of how you deliver the sort of customer experience in general to your customers. So how do you tie the employee experience and the culture to the customer experience and the impact on the business as a whole?
Well, one of the challenges we've had, in serving the small business community is getting that user experience right. And that's been an evolving process. We know that's critical. You can imagine a small business, somebody that opens a ballet studio because they love ballet doesn't really want to learn how to become a great marketer. They just want a tool that helps them connect with their customers and be better at following up so they can serve those customers better. So we are learning the importance of UX and design thinking as we design our products. And the company in the last 18 months, 2 years has gone through a real change in terms of how we approach UX design for the customer. But how we think about that for our employees is also important. What are the things that we can do to make it easy and intuitive and delightful for our employees to come to work here. That's what happens when they walk through the door, the experience they have with their leaders, how they work with each other, the growth opportunities they have. I think the principles of design and delighting an end user with simplicity and taking sort of the friction and challenge out of the experience also applies to how companies build companies and cultures to make employees have a great experience. And that's really important, an important aspect of culture.
We talk a lot about the importance of employment brands on this show. And obviously, the tech industry is very competitive when it comes to talent acquisition. And the Phoenix tech scene is booming. So I'm sure there's a lot of competition locally as well to attract top talents. How do you guys think about your employer brands at Infusionsoft?
Well, I'd like to reference, as culture is our strategy. We really think about building the brand by starting with our culture, and our best brand ambassadors are employees. So having our employees have a great experience and experience the culture in a real way to have it help them is our first. It really is where it happens at the core. The voices of employees matter. Like any good brand marketing, you have to be authentic to be effective. And so, we have core values and we have purpose and mission here that we live by, that we try and walk that walk every single day. And you don't always get it right, but that's what we believe in and that's what we're working towards. And that shows up in how people naturally talk about the company with each other as well as externally, and that's a big part of the brand. You can talk about all the cool perks and show cool videos and stuff. Ultimately, people want a place that feels like home to them. They want a place where they can feel like they can be successful, and I think those are the things that matter in the end. There's a lot of employment branding going on right now, which is who's got the coolest building and the most food and the most ping pong tables and things like that, or skateboard parks. And I don't have a problem with any of it, but ultimately, I think those are benefits of working there, but I don't think most people are going to go there for that. They want to go there because they want to know the work they do matters and it's appreciated and valued, and they have an opportunity to grow. So those are the things that are at the heart of an employment brand. And the other is sort of icing on the cake. And it might get people interested, but ultimately winning them to your company is going to be a deeper conversation.
You have a non-traditional onboarding process at Infusionsoft. What does it look like?
Well, again, as culture is our strategy, we want people to come here and really understand what it is we're about and what we stand for. And so we take about a week to let these new employees meet a lot of leaders. We do a couple of exercises that help them understand who they are, how they communicate, so that they know that, so they can share that with others, so that when they get in the tornado of work, they know what it is that makes them tick and where they're most successful. Some of that is strength-based assessments, and then communication styles. We want them to think about their role here and how they can contribute and really connect to what it means to serve small businesses. So we also let them see our customers and understand why our product matters, and then we help them see how our product does the work that it does for customers and what that means in the life of a small business. And small business is very personal, so it's important for people maybe coming from a more corporate world where you don't really see an impact on your customers because it may be a big other business. Small businesses is very personal business, and their success may determine if they can pay their bills. It may determine if they can go on vacation. It may determine if they can send a kid to college. So we want our employees to really feel that and connect to it, so that when they're doing the work, it's meaningful to them and they understand how it impacts the world. And so this week is really getting people oriented to the important work we do at Infusionsoft and the people that they're going to be doing it with and how they fit in to make that be a successful experience for them.
You joined the company in 2011 when it had about 120 employees. And it was already a pretty decent size company. And since then, the company has grown to about 530, as you said earlier. How did you scale up the culture from 120 to about 530?
Yes, that was my biggest question when I came here. Is it's easier when you've got everybody in one building on the same floor. You can see everybody by standing in one place in that building, to communicate, to collaborate, to let people own solving problems. It does get harder as you grow, and I think you have to be committed to. I think that's why the values are important, because you have to be committed to who you are. And as you scale, you really just have to start to scale the methods in which the culture gets expanded. But that's why we've stayed committed to the onboarding, so that doesn't get lost. It's why we've stayed committed to the standards of leadership. I think leadership becomes more important as you grow. When you're a small company, the CEO and founders really inspire and lead almost everybody individually. It's possible. As you grow, your leadership team becomes essential to do that work. And that also requires the founders and CEO to trust the leaders to do that job and sort of to let go a little bit of their baby that they founded, so to speak. And that is easier when you're very clear about the work that you're doing for the world and the values that you are going to stand for. So, establishing the culture and being committed to it then lets it scale as you have new leaders come in and they embrace the culture and then proliferate it. And so it's either going to get stronger as people enroll into the culture and lead to it, or if you're not as committed, you'll get all kinds of voices and noise, and no one will really know what you stand for, because everybody will be doing it the way they did it in their last company. So bringing people together around the purpose, in our case, to help small businesses succeed, and our values, is how that commitment grows with the company. And encouraging and inviting people to enroll to that is how you scale.
What does your office space look like? Is it a typical office space with cubicles? Do you have more of an open space with different types of areas?
Yeah, we have thought carefully about the space we wanted. It's a very open. It's a very open environment. It's our headquarters building here was a 2-story building. We cut the top floor. We cut a big hole in the top floor so you could walk around the top floor and look down into the ground floor. We have a big football field, turf field, not a full-size field, but in the middle of that floor where people meet. That's sort of a cultural icon. In our last building, just as we grew, we outgrew our office space and we grew into a warehouse that had been a sports training facility before that business went out of business, and it had a turf field in it, and it just became a natural meeting place for people in our former building, where people would say, yeah, well, I'll meet you on the field, or let's go have a meeting on the field. And so when we built our new building, we wanted to maintain that culture, that an icon of our culture, which we didn't intentionally start with, but it had become an important part of who we are and what people know about Infusionsoft. So we put this turf down and then carved out of the top floor so people could have visibility onto that field. And so it's sort of at the center of our company now. And we do have cubicles. We have a lot of meeting spaces and other places where people can gather and collaborate that aren't necessarily formal rooms. They're couches, they're comfortable chairs, things like that. It's like a lot of tech software offices that there's a lot of color, and we have things that are in addition to our values and our purpose on the walls. We have other inspiring things. We have something we call a dream room, which is where people can on a big chalkboard write their dreams and declare the things they want to go get in their life. And it's also a place where there's a lot of books, and it's kind of like a library and a place to be thoughtful and quiet. So, it's a busy, loud, energetic place, but there's also places to go and sort of, get with your thoughts as well.
What are the obstacles or challenges that you guys faced over the past few years basically since 2011 when you joined the company? Because in 6 years, you've more than quadrupled the size of your employees. So what are some of the challenges that you faced, or some of the lessons that you've learned along the way?
Well, there's a couple. One, that you need employees to grow. When you're experiencing that kind of growth, it's hard for people. They can get left behind. They can fear getting left behind as well. And so what are the kinds of things you can do to help people learn, understand their role better, learn new skills that are going to be necessary moving forward, and also be comfortable in where the company is going to be? And that's a challenge. That's a challenge for any company that grows. You have people who've been there since the beginning, when there was fewer than 100 employees, and now there's 500. That feels different. No matter what you do to scale your culture, it still feels different. You don't know everybody by name in a lot of cases, and along with that growth, you become, in the early stages, everybody does a little bit of everything, and you just chip in where you can. And as you grow, you start to hire and train specialists, marketing's talent in the people functions, software development functions, finance and accounting, and it's easy as you build those teams of specialists to have them become siloed or exclusive or just working on their challenges. So you've got to continually talk about putting the company first and the importance of collaborating to solve problems for the business, not just problems that you're facing in your own what we would call your own organization or your own department. And so helping people stay clear about what the company's about and how they think with a company hat on versus just thinking about their own local problems, but how do those roll up to solving the bigger challenges to help our customers. So keeping customers first, thinking with your company hat on, and then growing to be adaptable to the growth and change that's coming. We used to think about, I've been around for, I've been got a business career of 25 plus years. We used to think about change management, and there were frameworks for change management, and you start and you end. The change management models don't work anymore because change is just the new normal and it's constant. And so how can you, as you grow, help people adapt to that by giving them tools and skills and opportunities to grow personally so they can feel like they're growing with the company? As
you said earlier, you don't come from an HR background, and it sounds like more and more successful companies at implementing employee experience strategies have either moved from traditional HR or they've brought into the HR function other types of roles from marketing, customer experience people to bring that diversity and more that empathetic and customer-centric approach. Do you see this more and more, not just only at Infusionsoft, but in companies in general?
Yes, I do. I think you've got it right. You will see, and we are seeing, thinking about the people functions differently. HR traditionally has been focused on risk management for the business, trying to stay out of jail and reduce lawsuits and confrontation and conflict. Traditionally we have created leadership hierarchy and structures that help enforce those things. I think the trends and the changes that are sort of at play right now, we're moving towards organizations that are less hierarchical, that empower the individuals to do more and expect more, to let people go have impact where they can see they can have impact, to collaborate where they can to solve a problem versus running it up the command and chain of command. So all of those things are impacting how we move quickly through rapid change and growth. And part of that also then is, how do you have leaders that can function in those areas? And I think leaders that have grown up in command and control environments or chain of command environments and hierarchical environments have a harder time leading millennials and leading in organizations that are less hierarchical and less command and control and give more power and authority and influence to individual contributors. That's where the value is in a business that's run on the brains of people and the creative skills of people, so software especially. So those are changes that are necessary, and maybe not necessary, but they're definitely opportunistic. As you adapt to those changes as a company, you'll be able to grow. And so that means that you still need people who understand the laws, the employment laws, and some of the models, but they shouldn't maybe be thinking strategically about how you utilize talent to meet the objectives of the company. That you want somebody that's a strategic thinker that can see the company holistically, rather than from one perspective of staying out of jail or mitigating risk. So I think that's how people and the HR function is changing. It's becoming a bigger part of the strategic role of the company, and that's going to require better talent as well in the HR field.
Infusionsoft being a software company, technology is obviously at the center of the business. What is the place of technology in your employee experience?
Well, we use tools to facilitate collaboration and project management. We use Slack, for example, and that's part of the experience at Infusionsoft, how you communicate. There's obviously tools for specifically managing people, to track and keep track of benefits and compensation, those kinds of things. But I think of the technology that we use more as, how does that enable people to do their work better? And that includes collaboration, tools for productivity, tools for tracking progress in projects, and helping enable the culture of performance. So I think that when I look at technology, I don't look at it just as it applies to HR, but how does it apply to the whole company so that employees can be successful, they can do their work with more efficiently, they can use technology tools to collaborate more effectively, to share ideas, to connect with the parts of the business where they feel like they can contribute the most. And that's where I see technology really enabling businesses. I manage a lot of those technologies in my department to create the experience for our employees. But that's where the technology is most important, I believe, is how it helps the entire population, not just how does it help the HR team keep track of the population.
So speaking a little bit on this, you mentioned culture of performance, and being in a sales and marketing SaaS business, the metrics and analytics in marketing and sales are more critical than ever. How do you guys monitor and control and analyze employee data as you would do on the customer sales marketing side?
We do on the talent acquisition side, but we should on all aspects of our business. Clearly, you're on top of this trend. Much like marketing, BI and analytics became an important part of the marketing function in the last probably 8 years. And now it's all very analytics driven. That same transformation, HR is just a little bit behind. That same transformation is coming to HR and impacting HR. And when you think about it, a marketing funnel, and you think about customer journeys and how you track activities through those customer journeys, all the tools that you use to do that on the customer side. It's very similar on the employee side. You have a funnel for acquiring people. We have good analytics on how we acquire people, and what that funnel looks like to hire. The journey technology and the data about our employees we're working on, but we haven't, I don't think we've mastered that, and we may probably never master it. That might be a hill without a top, but we keep working at it. We see the importance of BI and analytics in the business and in helping understand where people can be most effective and productive and where the tools are working. Google is probably the best example of taking people analytics to its very end and most awesome place. And they've shared a lot of that analytics, which is something we've relied on and is helpful. But the performance of employees, how certain leaders impact performance, that's all data that I'd like to track. And I'm looking for the tools to do that so that we can help our leaders be better and get the insights from data, just like marketing would do for their data they have. And so that we can help our employees be more productive. And we can also let our employees see how they're growing and improving and making choices that impact their career and their compensation and their success. So those are all things that I'm thinking about looking for in the HR tech world is improving, and BI is having a big influence on the people function.
Can you give us some examples on what you guys do on the recruiting side then, in terms of candidate funnel and sort of recruiting marketing campaigns?
Yeah, so our employment brand factors into that. We utilize some things LinkedIn offers. Most of our recruiting goes through, we have really two sources. Our employee referrals are a big part of what we do here to put people into the funnel. And the good news about employee referrals is they can, often come in at the middle of the funnel versus the top of the funnel.
Sure.
But in the top of the funnel, really what you're trying to do, obviously, is speed to hire is super important. So if you can collapse that funnel so that it doesn't take as long, those are some of the ways you're trying to optimize. But the LinkedIn has helped us in a lot of ways get more targeted candidates so that that collapses the funnel and the time to hire or the speed to hire gets reduced. And those are metrics we track from first contact and posting to hire. So, and it's different for different job functions. Obviously, highly technical folks take longer than maybe support people, but we want to track it for certain. We want to track it for different roles. And at LinkedIn, they've got tools that help you promote your role to specific audiences that meet certain criteria that you identified. They can, through algorithms, identify a population and serve ads about your role specifically to that population. That's just a lot better than posting them on a board and hoping people find them. So that targeted focus for marketing roles is an innovation that LinkedIn and others are providing, where you can get very specific with the people you're promoting that role to, who might either be looking or might have a skill set that's similar to the job you're looking for. So technology, AI to a certain extent, helps that funnel be more efficient and lets you collapse the time to hire and find qualified candidates.
It's interesting to see that the HR and recruiting functions are now going through a similar transformation that marketing went through maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Yes, absolutely. And I think there's things that the HR world can learn from that, and hopefully the transformation can occur maybe in half the time than it did for marketing, because a key function has already done that, and there's learning from that. So I do believe it will be a faster transformation than it was for marketing.
Infusionsoft is headquartered in the Phoenix area, Chandler to be exact, and has offices in San Francisco and Atlanta as well. How do you maintain your remote workforce engaged in the culture?
That's a challenge that we have worked on, and I think part of it is a mindset at the company that we're trying to drive as part of our culture, that really people just work in different places, and there isn't headquarters or remote, but we just have employees in different places. But we clearly want to have our brand, our culture brand, reflected in the spaces that we have in those geographic offices. So that's important, and we invest in that. How you have to have technology that lets people participate in company meetings, regular team meetings, interactions, so that it's easy and delightful. That's probably the biggest challenge, is especially when you're starting off with smaller offices, is how do you have the investment in the technology to make the communication easier. Slack certainly helps things like that, but video conferencing is a big part of that experience. And then we do bring people here for a week for their onboarding, so they really get to know the company, what it's about, and what the company, with all its energy for what it does, they get to feel that, because sometimes in a smaller office you might not feel that, but when you've got 500 plus or 400 and so many people here who are really buzzing and energized around the work that they're doing, people can feel that and take that to a remote office and make their own energy there by having experienced it here. So we do bring everybody here for onboarding. Plus, it also helps them get connected. You have to bring people to your headquarters to just let them meet the people and shake hands and high five the people that they work with remotely. The video helps that, but it doesn't. The trust gets established sort of when you make the human contact, and that's where it starts. And then to think about it as less about being remote, but we're all just working together, and we might be working in different parts of the world, but we're all doing the same. We're all doing the same work to get small businesses to be successful.
More and more companies now are embracing technology to deliver more personalized experiences to their customers. Do you see companies embracing the same technologies to provide more of a personalized or customized employee experience? Yeah, you see that. I think we're on the front part of that. I think that companies, and as things kind of move from traditional HR to more focused on employee experience and engagement, there's technology as well as just how do you think about the experience that will help employees be successful. And so, again, Slack I think is one of those that, and we use Slack for engagement, to promote celebrations that when the company is being successful. Other tools that are out there are tools to help employees log in and see where they're at in their compensation and their progression, their value, their benefits, stock options if they have them. Those are important. And then, so I think most of those tools come around collaboration and then progression and and the opportunities they have to learn and grow in the company. So, I think it's collaboration tools, learning tools, and then sort of what are the nuts and bolts of my job here in terms of my pay and my benefits, and because that sort of is important for the home experience. Sure. Now we're getting close to the end, but let me ask you some fun questions before we end our conversation today. If you were to invite a historical figure to dinner, who would you choose and why?
I'd like to have dinner with Abraham Lincoln. He's the historical figure, U.S. president during the Civil War. He was not always liked, always popular, but he found a way to work through problems, and I think it primarily came through his authenticity. So I'd like to talk to him about how he could, bring together two very polarized positions to get a good outcome. I think that's a challenge of all leaders. That's the biggest challenge for leaders, and he seemed to have done that with the highest stakes and lives at risk. And so I'd love to talk to him about how, what it was, or experience what it was about his personality and leadership that enabled that success.
I would assume that growing up as a kid, you didn't dream of being a chief people officer at some point in your career. So what was your dream job when you were a kid?
My dream job as a kid was to play professional football. Probably like a lot of kids, it was to be big or to be famous and be successful playing a game. So I probably would have happily taken baseball or football as a career choice. I didn't think through I didn't really look to see the DNA that while I played sports and enjoyed sports, there's a certain DNA required to be a professional. So, but yeah, I loved sports and I love competition. I love getting better. I love practice. And as a kid, I thought nothing could be better than playing a game and getting paid a lot of money to do it and maybe getting on TV too.
Are you more of a college or NFL fan?
College.
College. What is your favorite team, college football team?
Well, I went to the University of Utah in the Pac-12, so I am a fan of the Utes. I'll tell you why I love college sports and college football is that it is there are more upsets. It's less predictable, and it is less predictable because things like culture matter more at the college level, where teams can maybe not have the highest skill, but somehow through strategy, through unity, through working hard, can be successful. And I love the possibilities that college sports provide for great sporting drama, because it's hard to dominate. Culture, teamwork, coaching, strategy play a bigger role, I think, than in professional sports.
That's a very good point. What is the essential item that you always take with you when you go on vacation?
Well, by nature of being married, it's a credit card. It's essential. It's not always the thing I'm glad to pull out, but my wife requires it. Beyond that, I'm going to say sunglasses.
That makes sense, especially in Arizona. What's your favorite food?
Someone once asked, if you had to eat the same food your whole life and you could only have one food, what would it be? Mm-hmm. I would say it's eggs. I like the variety of food. I love different flavors. So I'm not sure I have a favorite food, but if I could only have one food and I would never get tired of it, it's eggs.
That's very uncommon, I would say, as an answer, but it's pretty good. So what is the way for our listeners to follow you and Infusionsoft on social media?
Well, I am on Twitter at HGoldenH. That's my middle name is Golden, so it's Hal Halladay, but I just abbreviated it to at HGoldenH. Infusionsoft is at Infusionsoft. Infusionsoft.com. You can go see our products and what we do for small businesses and learn about our culture. I love tweeting things about culture and hiring and talent and inspiring great leadership. So I'd love to connect with people there. And then I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me, just search for Hal, H-A-L, Halladay, Halladay. And I'd love to connect with people there as well.
Thank you, Hal, for your time.
My pleasure. It's been awesome to talk about these topics and what's coming and how companies are committing more to enabling people to do better work and creating environments where the employees really are empowered to be successful and to grow. I think that is a great trend that's occurring that hasn't been there in most of my career, but in the last 5 to 10 years is really starting to deliver great results in how companies are able to grow.
Thanks for tuning in to the EX Podcast. If you want to learn more, visit our website at expodcast.com. If you want to find out more about our next conferences, go to exsummit.com. Finally, you can also find my manifesto on business to employee or B2E branding at b2ebranding.co. See you next week.